Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. I'm joined by Travis McGhee of FuturesANIMal, and boy, are you here on the right day. People are freaking out over yesterday, and I don't know that that's necessary, but it was a 3-point drop or 3-digit drop yesterday.
Yeah, well, yeah, to the downside, and we haven't had one of those in quite a while to that magnitude.
No,
and it certainly got people a little spooked. I mean, we've kind of grown accustomed over the past 6 months or so to the market only going in one direction, and that's straight up.
Exactly.
And you get a pullback like we've had since the start of January, and yeah, people are a little worried.
Can we expect to see something change from the Fed, do you think?
No, well, I don't think we're going to see anything change from the Fed. I think they've determined a path. I think they're going to stick to it. So I think they're going to continue their taper. I don't think they're going to scale back simply because of the stock market.
They knew last week that there was something going on, and they still didn't do anything.
I mean, while it's certainly a move of magnitude to you and I and most retail investors, it's still in the grand scheme of things, we're looking at a 5%, depending on which index you're looking at, greater than 5% move. So it's not what you would technically term a correction by any means. So I don't think the Federal Reserve is going to change path whatsoever simply from what we've seen so far. But there's still some very cautionary signs out there, and a lot of it is what is more or less the catalyst for this move. You take this big bucket and you throw in the problem that we have in some of the slowing of growth in China.
Which is a shock, I think, to most people. We really expected China to continue to have the kind of record growth they've had.
Right, because a lot of it feeds what we do here. And, you throw Argentina into that bucket, you throw Turkey into that bucket. You throw weaker U.S. numbers into that bucket. We had weaker manufacturing numbers come out yesterday. Throw that into the bucket, and next thing you know, it's not looking too pretty. So.
Yeah, why does Argentina keep finding its way into our lives? We've got a lot of problems down there. It's amazing.
Yeah, and everybody, it's really easy to write off, countries like Argentina, countries like Venezuela, so on and so forth. Well, they're very small. They're the size of the state of New Hampshire, whatever. Yes, they are small, but the way the global economy works now, there is an element of contagion that exists, and again, going back to the first point I was making, I don't think there's a whole heck of a lot to be worried about. We still have to realize we had a 30% year last year.
Right.
There's going to be some pullbacks in the market. It's just like turbulence in the air. When you're in an airplane, just because you're hitting a little bit of turbulence here and there
doesn't mean it's going to be that way the whole way.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, and doesn't mean the plane's going down.
Exactly.
Same thing with the market. We're going to have some turbulent areas. We're certainly in one of those right now. We're probably going to have more this year. We're going to have some every year. But the point is if you have a plan, a disciplined plan, like we've always talked about, and you're sticking to that plan, you shouldn't let that turbulence affect the way that you're investing in the market, in the grand scheme of things.
Well, we know that the market reacts emotionally.
Yeah.
The point is not to do it yourself.
Right. Try to keep your emotions in check, and that's not to say that you can't adjust a portfolio if something's completely going south on you, and it was just a bad investment. That's a completely different story. But what I'm talking about is if you're invested across the board in a 401k or an IRA and mutual funds and this and that, and you have a plan in place, just because the market has a bad day one day and you turn on the news and it seems like it's nothing but negative news coming out, doesn't mean you have to jump in the next morning and sell everything and completely go to a different investment.
Right. And when we think about the kind of diversification that we should have in our portfolio, what are some of the things that you think, we talked about this a little bit, I think it bears repeating though, some of the things that we should be looking at as a healthy mix?
Right. So there's, obviously stocks and bonds. And when you talk about stocks today, it's not like it was even 10 years ago. You're not talking necessarily about just individual stocks, but you have exchange-traded funds, which are referred to as ETFs. Those are more like mutual funds, and they're very diversified. They tend to have, they're either sector-specific, like the tech sector, or you can buy one that, mimics the S&P 500. So you can dampen your volatility with, investing in some of those. But, what we do, again, at FuturesANIMal is we try to look outside of the box stocks and find opportunities in alternative markets. And by alternative markets, depending on where you're looking, you could be talking about real estate. You could be talking about looking at commodities, at precious metals, at the options market, the futures market, just alternative investments outside of the general stock and bond market.
Well, let's talk about commodities for a minute, because I think a lot of people don't understand how much that's changed over the years. You and I talked about it when we first met, because you've had an opportunity to be down in the pit and see how things work. And of course, that pit is no longer really. It doesn't. Things don't work that way.
Right.
Yeah, it barely exists at all. The way in which we can trade commodities is very much like now, I think, a little more, it feels a little more like almost trading stock.
Exactly. Well,
there's a lot of difference.
Well, there is. Everything's electronic now. That's the beauty of, so you can electronically trade virtually anything. You don't have to have the old school broker that's going to pick up the phone and call another guy who's going to call another guy. They're going to execute it on the floor and then get back to you. A lot of it's just traded on a screen. All of our clients at our firm have access to a electronic platform. So everything's done virtually through a computer. And you can access almost any market from a computer. But as you were saying, I mean, the diversification in just what you can trade now versus 10, 15 years ago. I mean, you could trade futures on weather. I mean, you could trade, for farmers if they're going to hedge, if it's going to be a bad season weather-wise, if it's going to be a good season. There's a lot you can do now with
and a lot more information to do it with.
Exactly.
We know a lot more about those kind of things.
Absolutely.
Now. Wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the big thing here that we should kind of summarize as we wrap things up here is that, again, having a plan in place, having some diversification, those things are what help us weather these little storms.
Right.
Or these little, or as you said, it's what gets us through this little bit of turbulence.
Exactly, and everybody is different. Everybody sets up a plan different way. So a good place to start would be, you and I talked about it last week, on February 22nd, we're going to be at Deer Valley for a one-day event.
It's a
free
great
to the public. Yeah, and we're going to have a number of different people speaking on that day about how they're approaching the market, how they're setting up a plan, and where they see opportunity at for 2014. And there's no better time than now with the way the market's acting. So
yeah, and you get a little bit of pow to go with it towards the afternoon.
And then we'll go skiing. Yeah, we're going to hit some skiing up in the afternoon. So it'd be fun. Yeah, so that's February 22nd at Deer Valley.
And for an opportunity to be part of that, you go to FuturesANIMal.
FuturesANIMal.com. All the information's on our website, and you can sign up right there, and we'll see you on that Saturday.
Sounds good to me. Travis McGhee, thanks so much as always.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. All right, when we come back, we've got the Youth Sports Alliance and even more with Splore as well. We'll be back after this.